welcome back to my channel. First, I'm going to make a cup of tea and then we're going to go and talk about propagating your houseplants in the cooler months. Okay, so I'm now in my greenhouse with my cup of tea, and today I'm going to sort of go through the things that I use personally. Now, you don't necessarily need every single one of these things. This is just what I use and what I've found helps me be a lot more successful with propagating houseplants in the colder months. And basically they're a heat mat or a source of heat. So I have two different heat mats which I'll show you shortly. But a heat source could also be in a really sunny, warm position. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a heating pad. And I have heard that some people do put their cuttings on their hot water cylinder. I've never done this, so do what you will with that bit of information. I also like to use a clear box with a lid, with a sealing lid. And this acts as like a mini greenhouse. It'll help keep the humidity up around your cuttings. The heat pad will help keep your cuttings warm, and it'll create a really nice environment over the colder months for your cuttings to help them produce roots. A few other things I do also use are small pots. I particularly use small pots for different types of cuttings, so depending what I am taking cuttings of, but I'll go into that in further detail in a minute. I also use obviously a propagation medium, so I like to use either sphagnum moss or propagation pumice. Sometimes it's called propagation sand. I just get them from my local hardware store, so either Bunnings or Mitre 10 if you're in New Zealand. And I found these two sort of work the best in the cooler months. I like to use water a lot as well, but I don't really recommend using water over the cooler months. I haven't had great success with that. If that's your preferred method, go for it if you have a success with it. Just me personally, I haven't had any success. So what I will do is I will show you the equipment that I use to propagate my houseplants over the colder months, and then I'll also do a part 2 video where I will show you how to propagate your houseplants and sort of how the setup will work. So let me show you what I use. So when I first started out propagating in winter, I got myself this heat pad. This heat pad was just from Bunnings. It is solid plastic, so it's all waterproof. I found this worked really well, but it was just a bit small for me because I like to propagate a lot of things at once. This is a good little propagation pad to get if you are just starting out. But if you want to go a little bit more hardcore and you need something with a little bit more space, you can go for one of these heat pads. So this one is huge. It's like a really heavy duty, like a vinyl-y plastic, and obviously the heating elements are inside. Just plugs into your normal power socket, and this is a 48 inch by 21 inch, so I think that was about 1200 by 500 or something close to that. So yeah, this is a big size and it seems to work really well for me. Okay, so here's an example of the plastic container that I use. So I have two different types. One is a Systema container and this is a Taurus container. So I got both of these from my work, which is Par Rubber. But any sort of clear plastic storage container with a lid that has some good clips on that you can seal it, because that helps keep the moisture in and keep the humidity in. And as you can see by both of these lids, there's a lot of condensation in there, so the humidity is high, which the cuttings really like. You don't necessarily have to have a fully clear lid, clear container. If you can't find a clear container, opt for either a clear lid or a clear base. If you manage to find a container with a clear base, then what you could always do is flip it upside down, and then the lid becomes the base, and then the clear base becomes the top. But yeah, that's what I use. and I will show you inside. So here you can see I have sphagnum moss and propagation pumice. Actually, this is not propagation pumice, this is just coarse pumice, but I did manage to get myself some more. So this one is a lot finer than the stuff I have in here, but we've been in lockdown and that's all I could use, so that's all I had. So I will go into more detail on what type of cuttings prefer which medium in my part 2 of the video, but I just thought I would show you that box there. So yeah, that gives you an idea of a really good propagation box to put your cuttings into. Okay, so as you probably saw in the containers there, I do have some plants that are in small pots and some that are just sitting in moss, which are just loose in the container. Again, it depends what you're propagating. So I like to use these small little 7cm by 7cm pots, and I use these if I am using propagation pumice. If I am using sphagnum moss, generally I will just fill the whole container, well not fill, but fill the bottom of the container with damp moss and just place my cuttings in randomly. But if I'm doing small, delicate like leaf cuttings, peperomia for example, I will use small pots. So a few extra things you could use but don't necessarily have to use. Well, you have to use a nice pair of sharp scissors or secateurs to take your cuttings, but also you can use a rooting hormone, so you can get it in a liquid form or a powder form. I have used both, and to be honest, I can't say I have noticed a difference in success from the cuttings that I have used this with and that I haven't used a rooting hormone with. So again, it is not a necessity. Again, it is not a necessity to having successful propagations. Okay, I think that sort of covers it for the basics of propagating, so what you will need to propagate in winter. In part 2, I will show you how to take the cuttings and how to set up your propagation box on your heat mat, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!